Hey, hobby friends. Your old pal Bo here. The only man on YouTube with a face for radio and a voice for print. I'm coming at you again today. Um, do a little painting. You can see I've got some minis on my desk there. Um, I haven't been online in a while. Been working a lot. Been working some overtime. I've been concerned with the Doge thing and the economy thing and, everything that's been going on lately. So I figured it'd be worth it to sacrifice a bit of hobby time for some more overtime. Um, I'm not sure how worth it is because you just end up a health deficit, but it's the mother's love and a father's sacrifice, right? But been doing a little more hobbying. I've been trying to play my Friday night game with the guys, and uh, I want to paint a little bit, so I'm just loading up the wet palette, just trying to get the bubbles and wrinkles out of my paper here. Load a little more water into it and let you know what's been going on. So I'm still working on these poxwalkers. It seems like it's been forever, but I've been experimenting with flesh tones. And the more experimenting I've done, the more I realize that I probably shouldn't be experimenting. I don't want to come up with. I learned that some people in the hobby call it a rainbow vomit when your miniatures, in the same unit look too different. But I've settled on flesh tones, I think. And I've got some that are more green, some that are more red. But I think the ones that are red and the ones that are green, I'll probably put some Reichland flesh shade on them or some thin Gilliman flesh contrast paint or something similar, and then try to glaze on some more flesh tones over the colors to bring them up to a more sickly flesh standard, and then unify the cloth with this French blue. I think it will contrast well with the green that the Death Knights and Terminators and vehicles in the army will eventually have. There's been a lot on my mind lately about hobby stuff, tariffs and the state of the game and the whole left-right paradigm in role-playing and all that stuff. And frankly, sometimes it just makes me want to give up and say, you know what, I'm freaking done. I can say this too will pass, but, I can't guarantee that. I don't know what's going to happen. So I got a new magnifying lens. This is the base of it. This was from my friend That Darn Cat. Evidently, it was an army surplus. And it's a little beat to heck. Whoever owned it before That Darn Cat used the wrong size screwdriver on these screws and dogged them up, and the paint's all off. And anyway, it needs a new light bulb in the lamp. It uses a fluorescent bulb. I'm hoping I can replace it with maybe an LED equivalent, get a little brighter, at least a new bulb. But in the meantime, let's pick one of these and get a little paint on the palette. Let's see. Let's have some Gilliman flesh. I've been using that as a wash, especially with a little bit of the magic juice. Some Viejo model red beige. Maybe some pale skin for highlights. The blue for cloth. Let's see. Army Painter Regimental Gray for weapons, and some old Army Painter Leather Brown for boots and belts. So yeah. I have done some upgrading to the Bo Paints Minis studio. I've actually gone a long way to decluttering. I've put some more shelves up. I might feature those a little bit later. And yeah, we're getting there. My goal is to have 2,000 points of Death Guard by the end of the year. It would really help if I got through the through the these Poxwalkers. My next unit was going to be Chaos Cultists, but since Chaos Cultists are, I guess, no longer part of the Death Guard, so I hear, I wasn't planning on buying the Codex, and I really wasn't planning on playing the game anyway. But I would like the opportunity to at least say, hey, look. I don't like the way the bases are on these either. I first I thought I would go for an urban decay, a decayed urban base, but then I thought everyone else is doing the same thing. It fits for like every single 40k army. So I think now I might add some, maybe airbrush on some neon green ink over the bases. See if I can tint them a little bit more nerdly. I don't know. I don't know where you're going with your gaming. I hope that you're having awesome tabletop experiences. You have to tell me, let me know in the comments or on Discord, what you're playing, whether you're playing role-playing games. And if you are playing role-playing games especially, let me know, because I like role-playing games, and that is my first passion, my first love, but I've been so disgruntled with the RPG scene lately. Not just the scene, but the state of gaming. I still can't find a game. I still want to support a game that's both modular and currently in print, and that's not a D20 based game. That's my criteria. And, my first love is for the old GURPS, but Steve Jackson Games is in a tailspin with their CEO leaving, with their politics, and they can't seem to leave politics, at least out of their website. Fortunately, they left politics out of their games so far. All right, where's the Guilliman flesh? All right, I'm going to shake that, but I'm going to leave it here, and I'm going to leave it closed, because these pots, they spill. The tall ones spill worse, but I did spill a pot of Guilliman flesh a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I gotta say, I hate that. I hate that. A little bit of magic juice. This is the famous matte medium water mix. A little bit goes a long way, but I use it for making glazes. So I got this deuter here. And yeah, he's sufficiently in the ass phase. Let's see if we can start raising him to a higher standard, huh? So I was watching RPG Elite's video today about solo role-playing. And he made some good points about the mechanical advantages, maybe. the meta advantages of solo role playing. He said it makes you a better GM. It helps you with be a better player. Helps you with campaign development and world building and journaling. And he drew out all those points, but I think that he failed to neglect, to me, the most important part of playing role playing games. To me, and I don't know about you. To me, playing a role-playing game is a social experience first. It's an immersive experience that you share with friends, right? And I think that's why, I don't want to play convention games. I don't want to play games with strangers at a club or a store. I want to play games with friends. Now, every friend starts as an acquaintance or a stranger. So, if you play the first time with the stranger once, and then hopefully, down the road, that stranger becomes a friend and part of your group, whether you play online in, something like a Discord or Roll20 or some virtual tabletop, or whether you play at the public library, or whether you play at a store. I want to have a social experience first and an immersive experience second. So I think Avenger Satanus made a point about that recently in one of his posts. I can't remember if it was a video or one of his written blogs. You should check him out, by the way. He's a stand-up dude. But he was talking about immersion as a metric for the enjoyment of role-playing games. And I think that he makes an interesting point. And, in my rules for role-playing, or my rules for hobbying, really, I never included immersion as a baseline. And I think I never included immersion as a baseline because I wanted my rules to apply to you. The first rule is your hobby, your way. But my way of hobbying would definitely include... I'm focused on my hand, not my freaking... All right. We're focusing on the mini now. Stupid camera. I want to focus, pardon me. I think that immersion might be a corollary to fun. It's a proof, right? It proves the rule. How do you know when you're having fun? Well, it's not just enjoyment, because you could just sit and cut up for, an hour or two and call that fun. You could just carry on and make jokes and share gossip and, I don't know, talk about the weather and get done with that 2 or 3 hours and say, man, I had a good time. But if that's the case, then why not just sit and talk with your friends? You don't need dice and paper and rule books for that. But to me, immersion makes it more fun. Now, maybe you don't have to be an amateur theater troupe, and maybe you don't have to be a caught up in the latest, but I think that you need to become your character. And that's another thing. It was video today by Wargamer Fritz, who he's an OG on YouTube. I think guy's been around forever, and he's another one that's been playing. He plays all the games, board games, role-playing games, computer games, especially computer RPGs, war games. So that's the big three, right? War games, role-playing games, tabletop games. And he said that your character is your avatar in the game. And I want to disagree with that because I want to say that your character in the game is no more your avatar than than a movie character. Was John McClane Bruce Willis's avatar? No, I'd say no. I'd say it's a character that he played. And while, again, we're not acting, we are playing pretend. And I think that the closer we try to play our characters to ourselves, generally speaking, the more disappointed we are when things don't go our way. And if you're playing a particularly lethal RPG, then you're going to be really disappointed when your hero dies a grisly death, which is always a possibility. All right, I think that's sufficiently base coated. I'm going to let it go for a minute, and then I'm going to put some Guilliman flesh on there, darken it up a little bit, build some contrast, and I'll go back over it with highlights or lowlights, darken it up. So I'm going for something more like that. So that's the one I've been working on. I haven't painted the rim yet, and I haven't painted I'm going to dry brush the base a little bit, but that's the one I was working on most recently. And you can still see he's got some holes. He needs another coat of the Guilliman flesh, but I don't know. Things have certainly taken a turn for the surreal, right? Probably using a brush that's a little bit too fine for this job. My other one has just not been holding a very fine point. I put some refurbishing gel on it. We're going to hope that it makes a difference. So I got a new phone. And the camera's okay, but it's obviously not. It's focusing on my hands instead of on the model. I just need to maybe put it on a stick and then just bring the brush in without it getting on my hands, and might make more of a difference. And for this video, I'm not using my headphone mic. I'm using the phone mic, so it's probably garbage. Been really frustrated lately. I feel checked out, you know? I feel like my body's falling apart. Getting old is not for sissies. I've got to do that tentacle. So I feel like we got gray in there. Oops. Well, I'm no Eons of Battle. I'm no eBay Miniature Rescues. I'm just a guy who wants to have an army. I'd like to have one whole army. One unified faction, at least once, Interesting story about this army. So a while back, I was cruising Facebook Marketplace and the local Facebook miniature exchange, and there was a fellow that had the old Death Guard combat patrol, the one that was notorious. That's this one, right? The one with the Poxwalkers, plus Typhus, plus the one that nobody really wanted. And now Poxwalkers are, I guess, pretty good in this new codex, whatever, right? And he was offering it for like really cheap off of retail, even off of the real retail, not Games Workshop retail. Pretty significant discount. I was like, well, those miniatures look like a challenge to paint. It looked like a real challenge. There's a lot of trim, a lot of trim on the trim. Plus, contrary to the preconceived notion, I think it's hard to make bad look good. You can't just slop paint on it and say that it's so bad it's good, or it's supposed to be bad. Yeah, it's hard to make bad look good. So I decided to pick it up. So I feel like I didn't choose these guys; they kind of chose me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to paint this whole son of a bitch up. I'm going to paint it. Then I'm going to build a display board for it. And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to enjoy it. The whole shebang. I want the artillery. I want the flyers. I even got a few of the Maggotkin of Nurgle units that are not allowed in 40K, or had been in 40K but aren't 40K anymore. Whatever, rules change. Units go to Legends. Unit gets moved out. But I eventually want to paint those too, and because I think in the lore they make sense. Whether they make sense in the actual on the tabletop is a different animal entirely. All right. And I want to do it. So as soon as I get these guys done, I'm doing the vehicles, because there'll be a nice palette cleanse from all these details. Let's pick another one, shall we? This one's probably my favorite. I love the mechanical arm. And the last one I did, I put some gore on the mechanical arm last. Put some I think I base coated it gray, stippled on some lead belcher, then some flicked on some rust powder, and then at the end I just kind of immersed it in at least the fist in gore, so that it looked like it punched through somebody. cobweb on that thing. I'm going to get off. It's been 20 minutes, and I don't expect anyone to actually watch through this. This is just me venting. Who knows? Maybe I'll go live in a minute. Well, if you like what I do, let me know in the comments. If you don't like what I do, leave a comment. In the meanwhile, keep playing games. I'd like to have a discussion on two very actually thematically similar books. Or at least, long pamphlets. First is the Old School Primer, and the second is How to Roleplay the Hard Way by the late Sean Driscoll. I think those books kind of go together to paint a picture of how to have an immersive, old school role-playing experience, regardless of which system or setting you're using. You're using something like, I don't know, like I said, there's the big three, right? But pretty much anything, pre-2005, depending on the system. Anything from the golden age of role-playing, which I think probably ended realistically around 1995 or so, with the death of RPG periodicals that aren't house organs. I guess that was probably earlier than that. But what I'm kind of interested in right now is maybe starting a Pendragon campaign using RPG Pundit's medieval companion books for adventure ideas. Sort of a gritty, low fantasy, mythic, something like in the realm of a King Arthur type. Use Pendragon rules for the especially the supplemental rules for the chivalry and world building, and then have when the players go to fight a dragon, it's a big deal. Maybe they can quest for a year or two to get the magic sword that they have to fight the dragon. Make it really, really old school. Have a lot of intrigue at court and all that. Let me know in the comments what you think. What role-playing game would you like to play that you either haven't played or haven't played in a while? Bonus points if it's came out, say, before 1997. If you want to play Cyberpunk 2020, if you want to play Champions 4th Edition, Call of Cthulhu 5th Edition, yeah. And if you've made it this far, if you've made it to the end, let me know in the comments what RPG you'd really like to play that you either haven't played in a while or haven't played ever. Bonus points if it's an old school game that is not D20 based. Right? Bonus points if it's anything like that. All right. So keep it real. And I will talk to you later. Peace.